Now I'm ready.
Are you ready for rapid fire?
Yes, I am. Let's go.
Here we go. So Ohio State head coach Ryan Day was disrespected before the regular season meeting with Notre Dame and Ohio State last year at Notre Dame Stadium. There were questions about Ohio State's physicality, you might remember, going into that game. And, that was brought up by one Lou Holtz. So Ryan Day was asked about that physicality thing from last year. And Lou Holtz is going to come up here.
I have tremendous amount of respect for Notre Dame and certainly what Marcus has done there. I think they're a gritty group. They're a tough group. They're a great program. And, last 2 years has been a battle playing against them. And we know it's going to be the same way. Every year is a different group of guys in a different situation. This is a different situation. It'll be the same way. But no, I mean, every game, you're either trying to prove somebody right or prove somebody wrong. It doesn't matter, when it is. And it'll be the same thing in this game here.
Speaking of that, I'm just curious. Have you and Lou Holtz ever talked since then? Have you either patching things up or comment between you?
No.
I mean, he asked it. Fair game, I guess. But
he asked it. And I did that exact same expression live when I heard that question get asked. Like, well, really? That is such a question that there are certain people on the beat, the Notre Dame beat, would ask that question. And I'm sure, I'm surprised they got beat to the punch by the whole Ohio State person.
I mean, no one's surprised, right? Like, do you want Lou Holtz to kind of rear his head and start stirring things up again this week? Or would you rather Lou just kind of, stay kind of behind the scenes a little bit more before this one? Though, like as big a thing as that became last year.
Lou Holtz can say whatever the heck he wants, and I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I don't care.
I'm with Father David. Stay home, Lou.
Oh, he says it from home. Don't worry.
No, stay away from the cameras. Stay away from the microphones. I just think that, and maybe Marcus Freeman has put in that call. Coach, I love you, but let's not this week, right? Let's not create anything extra.
Oh, it's great
for Ohio State going.
Lou Holtz still has the best line ever of all Notre Dame football coaches ever. Save Jimmy Johnson's ass for me. Like right. That's still the best quote ever by Lou Holtz, by any coach.
Jimmy didn't even know about it until after the game. So.
Oh, love it. Love it. So he can, I think they should, I think he's probably in a wheelchair now. You roll him into the locker room, and then he gives, you can save Ryan Day's ass for me. Like that's what I want. And I want that to be on the documentary. That's what I want.
Locker room motivational stuff.
Yes.
No problem with that.
Okay. So you're okay with that.
But nothing, no bulletin board stuff, basically, is what I'm saying. No bulletin board stuff.
Okay.
I'm looking. I had seen the Malik Zaire. People are bringing up Malik Zaire's.
Yeah, he's not a big fan of Will Howard, and I get it. I don't think Will Howard's all that great either, but he's played really well in the playoff. He has. He's played pretty well in the playoff, I think.
He has.
He's done what he needed to do in the playoff, so he's no slouch.
I've seen the tweet, but I can't remember exactly what he said.
It was. So. I think he said something along the lines of Will Howard is the worst Ohio State quarterback in like 15 years. Or something along those lines. But is he? I mean, I know Ohio State fans hate Kyle McCord. I get it. So it would be a toss-up between those two for me. But like, you think about the great quarterbacks that kind of came through Ohio State over the last decade and a half. He's not really going out on a limb.
The thing with he's got what McCord had. He's got NFL talent around him.
Correct.
Like skill guys, wide receivers, running back. Like that's what it is. So like, I don't disagree. Jesse was popping in. Will Howard's not better than Kyle McCord, and I've kind of said that as well. I'm surprised our old friend Bucknuts hasn't popped in today. Maybe he's waiting until later in the week to start stirring the pot. I don't know, but
Johnny S wants us to talk about Kirk Herbstreit as an Ohio State quarterback. I don't remember Kirk Herbstreit as an Ohio State quarterback, and that was way more than a decade and a half ago.
I mean, most people remember Herbstreit as an analyst. Like the guy's literally been on game day for 30 years, and he's not that old. So, like, think about what that meant for his career. You know,
I'll tell you what, he ages very well. I will give him that. He does not look his age.
No,
I will say that, and I don't know what that is.
Let him whatever it is. I'm guessing. I don't know.
He's 55. He doesn't look 55. I mean, I give him credit.
He's held up well.
He really has, especially in the public eye and all of that.
Yeah.
I give him credit for that.
So Marcus Freeman updated the health of Jeremiyah Love and Beaux Collins during his Zoom Sunday as well.
J Love is good to go. J Love will be full go, and Beau's still healing from he has calf strain, and so he'll work back into practice here in the next couple of days. But I hope that as long as he progresses, he'll be good to go for the game. But we got to make sure that he progresses as we go through this week.
2 questions for you, starting with this one: can the Irish beat Ohio State without Jeremiyah Love?
Be really hard. It'd be really hard. I mean, even as just a threat to get the football, that he needs to be in the game. You know what I mean? I don't even need 100%. I want 100% Jeremiyah Love, but even
is 90% good enough?
Yes,
like where's
90%.
Where does our scale slide to on how good? You know what percentage he has?
80.
To be at?
80 is mine because he doesn't break off a 98-yard run. But there's plenty of debate out there, and I'm with them about his 2-yard touchdown run was more dynamic than his 98-yard run.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm thinking. Like you need that on the field. You need that threat and just that gumption that he had for a run like that, just to get you a couple of tough yards. Jesse slides it all the way down to 70%. I think 80 is where I'm at though too.
And 80% Jeremiyah Love can do that at the goal line. I don't know that he's, like I said, I don't know that he's breaking off a big run, but he can do that. And that's what I just need his presence. I need his presence on the field. That's what I need. Yeah. And what is it? Michael said Aeneas Williams. Yeah. Look, he stepped up in the Orange Bowl. Like his role was bigger in the Orange Bowl than it's been all season. Even
and that's the thing. Aeneas Williams now shows up in the Ohio State scouting report more than it showed up in the Penn State scouting report. You only had a handful of plays that Aeneas Williams, that Penn State could really look at. And they split Aeneas Williams out as a wide receiver on that play.
That's a matchup problem.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they got the matchup with the linebacker. And that's part of what, again, great throw, maybe even greater catch. But the fact that he was matched up against the linebacker definitely helped Williams out. And so Ohio State is going to look at Aeneas Williams a little bit differently now than Penn State was looking at him last week because of that play. So it's like, I'm not doubting that Aeneas Williams can still go out there and contribute and give Notre Dame something. But obviously the threat of Jeremiyah Love, like you really need that on the field as much as possible.
100%. I'm just so happy right now that he's a sophomore. That's where I'm at. I feel like it's the year that like Michael Mayer was a sophomore. I was like, I know he's coming back for at least one more year. Like, that's where I'm at with J Love. It's like, he's a sophomore, can't go anywhere.
Yep. Now Williams can be a playmaker, but Jeremiyah Love is a playmaker, and that's why you need as much Jeremiyah Love on the field, especially against a defense like this. It's now the best defense that Notre Dame will see this season.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah. And you know what? It's the best defense that Ohio State's going to see too. So.
Andre says if Jesse's in the chat, tell him to jump on. Maybe he's naked and doesn't want to jump on. I don't know what he's got going on over there. He's definitely going to be here for tomorrow's shows. We're going to jump deeper into some of the Ohio State stuff with Jesse and his whiteboard. He's already been told about that. So my other question, he said Beaux Collins has a calf strain. Marcus Freeman did. Is there a Notre Dame wide receiver who's irreplaceable on this team at this point?
Salty's going to be mad, but the answer is no.
I agree.
Although devil's advocate, right? Greathouse is stepping up when he needs to. Had a big game in the Orange Bowl, obviously. I think Faison is capable of that kind of a game. I think Beaux Collins is actually capable of a game like that. So, I mean, I think there's capabilities there, but I think one can step up for the other one if somebody gets hurt. Like there's nobody that's irreplaceable right now. And there's nobody that I would be like, well, season's over. If that guy can't go, I want them all to be healthy. I want all the weapons. But yeah, I don't know that anybody has distanced themselves at this point as somebody that you can't win without.
That's exactly it. Because look, for a couple of games, it was looking like, ooh, Jordan Faison is the go-to guy now. And Penn State, again, because of what he showed for a couple of games, Penn State defended him differently and had some success limiting him that, like Indiana and to some extent Georgia wasn't able to. And Jaden Greathouse was able to step up and make some plays. And I think like those two, Chris Mitchell, Beaux Collins, like you said, even Jaden Harrison to some extent. I think all of those guys are capable of being able to step in and give Notre Dame a big game. So I absolutely don't think that any of them are irreplaceable because, let's just look at the fact that was game 14, or was it 15? I guess that was game 15.
15.
And that's the first 100-yard game that Notre Dame has had since Faison's Sun Bowl last year. So, I don't think any of them are irreplaceable, but I do think that any of them are fully capable of having games like Faison and Greathouse have had in the last few weeks.
Right. There's a lot of capability there, right? We saw Mitchell Evans kind of jump out a little bit in the Orange Bowl. Hopefully that can continue, obviously. Look, there's a lot of that's the one thing about this offense. They don't necessarily have any stars on the outside, but there's a lot of guys that can make plays as well. So you don't really know who to cover, who to bracket, who to focus on, because they can all kind of do it. You know what I mean? They're all like 6.5, 7s. They're all like right there. There's no 9s or 10s. Like Ohio State has 9s and 10s on offense. And so, that's the tricky part there. Notre Dame's got some guys too, but they're not as good. But there's a lot of those guys.
Michael says, why can't Williams line up at fullback? Call me crazy. Well, because
he's not a fullback.
Well, he's not a fullback. Fullback and running, halfback are two different positions. And Notre Dame, when have you seen them use a fullback? They've done some 21 personnel. They did that last week and then even the week before against Georgia, and maybe we see more of that. So you could see him on the field potentially at the same time as either Price or Love, but it wouldn't be at fullback.
Yeah, I don't. Look, Notre Dame, Mike Denbrock doesn't run with a fullback, and he's not going to.
Right.
But guess what? You get the same action having Jeremiyah Love lead block for Riley Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
Same idea. So you don't need to line up with a fullback. You got the same amount of guys blocking when you run Riley Leonard when you have your running back blocking for him. So yeah, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. As they say, when it comes to football, it's all a numbers game.
Marcus Freeman also talked about the impact of the flu on his team from last week and kind of where they are with that, if it could be a factor this week.
Flu, I'm sure every school, Ohio State's probably dealing with it too. Like it's a virus that has really, I think probably over half of our team has gotten it already. So I don't think it will have an impact on this week's game.
So do you have any concern about the flu for the Irish coming up this week, Vince?
Nope. Didn't have a concern last week, and I don't have a concern this week. That's where I'm at. I know there were a couple of guys that were hurting from the flu, but it was like a couple of walk-on guys. Like that wasn't I'm not saying it's fake news because I'm not going to go that far because there were some guys that were dealing with it at that time, but it wasn't the story it was made out to be.
But I guess the only thing is if half the guys have had it, then there's another half who could get it. And like you said, it was mostly reserves last week. So who's to say, you would think that hopefully if they're going to have it, maybe, it runs its course this week. And then by next week, you're okay. You just don't know with that kind of stuff.
And I do want to address ND Sailor here. He goes, why on earth don't they give these guys flu vaccines? The flu. Do you guys understand how flu shots work? Like the flu shot is for the most common strain of flu that is out there this year. It is not for every flu strain. So just getting the flu shot does not make you Superman against the flu. That's not how it works.
Yeah, not to mention we get into, vaccine questions, which not everyone's for.
Also
it's
true.
Like we don't have to start getting into all that kind of stuff.
Right. So
this ain't the military where you don't have a choice, where you line up and they just give you the gun and they literally inject like 10 different things into your body at one time. So.
But we're not saying they didn't have it, ND Sailor. You can still get the flu with the flu shot. Nobody said they didn't have the flu
because
shot.
It can be a different strain than what you just got vaccinated for.
Come on, man. There we go. So I knew saying something like that was going to start.
There we go. See, that's all it took. That's all it took. Don't take those shots.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
So Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network has reported that the Chicago Bears want to interview Marcus Freeman for their coaching vacancy. Don't believe me? Here he is.
Bears continue their exhaustive search for their next head coach. I am told the team wants to interview Notre Dame's Marcus Freeman for the job. Freeman is in the midst of a magical run with the Fighting Irish to the national championship game. Obviously unlikely that he would entertain NFL overtures prior to that game a week from tomorrow against Ohio State. But the Bears have done extensive research for months on Marcus Freeman. He's only 39 years old. Would not be a shock if at some point he at least considers going to the NFL. Freeman was actually a fifth-round pick by the Bears back in 2009 as a linebacker. Got released in the final cuts, never played in an NFL game. But if the Bears get their way, Rich, perhaps Marcus Freeman could make another visit to Hallis Hall sometime in the coming week.
So there you go. Tom Pelissero on the NFL Network talking about the Chicago Bears' interest in Marcus Freeman. Scale of 1 to 10, what chances do you give that Freeman would actually interview with the Bears?
Negative 7,500. Like, it's not going to happen. He's not interviewing with the Bears.
Oh, boy.
He's not Brian Kelly.
Vince being definitive. Here we go.
That's right. It's not going to happen. He just signed an extension at Notre Dame. He has the team in the national championship game. He's not going to interview with the Bears. It's not happening. Like it's hilarious to me. This guy's reporting. He's like, well, the Bears have this interest. I had an interest in Cindy Crawford when I was a single guy, but doesn't mean she's coming over to go on a date with me. Like there has to be mutual interest. And I don't think there was mutual interest here in this case.
But he's not saying that Marcus Freeman is taking the job. He's telling you about the interest that the Bears have in him.
I get it. That's a one-sided relationship.
Right. And that's why I phrased the question the way I did. Do you think Marcus Freeman would actually interview? And I do not, based on the fact that, this Bears stuff came up at the end of November.
Right.
Before Marcus Freeman signed his contract extension and all the leverage stuff that we talked about. Like that, the fact that Marcus Freeman signed that, to me, like that should tell us all about the commit. And Freeman, I know he's had at least a little bit of a chance to talk about it. Like that tells you you where Marcus Freeman's head is at.
That's a great point, because the Bears stuff was out there before he signed the extension.
Right.
And if he was interested, he would have said, hey, guys, let's wait till after the season to sign this extension.
Exactly.
And that would have been code for I'm going to go interview for this Bears job. That's a great point. That much more sound logic than what I had. So I appreciate it.
I do what I can. What I can.
Appreciate that.
But that's, and again, like when they signed that, there was still a lot of things going on. Ryan Day was, according to a lot of people, on the hot seat if he didn't get to it.
That's right.
At least where he is right now. And there, that was a possibility. The Bears were a possibility. All these things, but within maybe 10 days, they got a deal done and they announced it. Pete Bavacqua has talked about it. They got it done. They all wanted to get it done. Like Marcus Freeman could have rolled the dice and said, hey, let's wait and see. Pete Bavacqua could have rolled the dice and said, hey, prove something to me in this playoff. Prove to me, that you can actually win some big games. And that could have changed the whole complexion. And then maybe Marcus Freeman does go out and interview, again, to like drive his price up with Notre Dame to make Notre Dame show him the love. But I think that we've seen where Marcus Freeman's head is in this whole thing. And I'm with you. Like I put it, like you put it at -75. I would just put it at, 0 to maybe 1, leaving a little bit of wiggle room out there. But I don't see it happening. I don't think Marcus, like the kind of person that Marcus Freeman is, I don't think he signs a deal on a contract extension with Notre Dame and then goes back and starts dabbling with an interview with the Chicago Bears.
And a few people made a point in the chat also. The Notre Dame job is better than the Bears job. That I don't
right
think
now it absolutely is. Yeah.
I don't think that's a career trajectory like this. Like, yes, the NFL is above college. I get that. I don't think the Bears are above Notre Dame. I don't. And I think he'd be taking a step backwards in his career, not a step forwards. Because if he wins let's say if he wins the national championship, he's gonna be able to write his ticket as the Notre Dame head coach for a very, very long time. And that's not the NFL is what have you done for me lately? Now, college is trending that way. I get that. But as well as I do, if he can somehow find a way to win this game on Monday, I mean, they're gonna start looking at pictures for the statue for after he retires. You know what I mean? Like you will be forever a Notre Dame man. He's not, like, I just don't see that happening. I just don't.
No, and I mean the biggest, like you said, right now Notre Dame is getting ready to play in a national championship game. The Chicago Bears are still trying to figure out what they are as an organization. They've got a lot of issues to figure out. So absolutely, right now the Notre Dame job is better. I mean, still the bigger picture question is, does Marcus Freeman or anyone else, Steve Sarkisian, like we were talking about with the Cowboys potentially earlier, any of these guys, like, do you want to be an NFL head coach? Do you want to be a college head coach? And Freeman has talked about that. Like, he likes working with young people, like he gets to work with in college. And it's a completely different kind of relationship that you have with college players compared to NFL players. Because even if college guys are getting paid now, like, it is a pure job. It is a career, and it's just much more transactional once you get to the NFL level compared to, being here coaching college guys. So it's a completely different thing. And that's the biggest question. Does Marcus Freeman want to be a college coach or an NFL head coach? And the words out of his mouth is, have been just within the last month that he wants to be a college coach. So maybe it makes sense for him a few more years down the road. But for right now, I
he's put way too much into this at Notre Dame to want to walk away from it at this point. I mean, I don't. There is that too, right? He's put a lot of sweat equity and time into what Notre Dame is. I mean, he's already proven that you can win at Notre Dame, right? He wants to take it the whole way. And the cupboard is full, right? It's not like a situation where, the entire team's graduating. This is a great time to get out. That is not the case in any way, shape, or form. That right now they're overachieving because everybody was pointing towards 25 and 26, not 24. So they're overachieving right now, in my opinion. And so this is not the time to get off this train at all. Even if you lose this game on Monday, this is not the time. Like, Notre Dame stock, you want to buy it. It's going up. It's not the time to jump ship. And I think he's smart enough to see that.
Ray asked earlier if Notre Dame can block Freeman from interviewing with NFL teams. I don't believe so unless they have any specific wording in their contract that would say something like that. But I would doubt it because it is still,
which we'll never know because
it's a different school. Yeah, exactly.
And we'll never see the contract. We shouldn't anyway.
Yeah. So I saw a lot of this stuff going around this weekend, Vince. 2 teams that wouldn't have made it into the 4-team college football playoff national championship game are playing for the championship this year. And a lot of people are saying that diminishes the regular season. Do you buy or sell that?
Oh, it's a huge sell. It does not diminish the regular season in any way. It makes it more exciting down the stretch. 100%. 100%. I mean, Notre Dame lost their second game of the season back in September. And so what you're saying is you want your season to be over at that point? No, now you're in the playoff at this point because you got to win every game from now until the end of the season in order to make the playoff. And I'm okay with that because it makes every game do or die. I completely disagree with the fact that it makes the regular season diminished. Completely disagree. It makes it more heightened, especially the second half of the season. It heightens it up even more.
Right. So, I mean, they expanded the playoff. What did you think was going to happen? That it was just going to be like straight chalk? Like, if you're going to do that, why did you even expand it? Like, to me, the regular season has had even more meaning this year because of the fact that the playoff has been expanded. For one, like if you only wanted, the top 4 teams to make it into the national championship game, just keep the format at 4. But you got an expanded playoff. More teams had a chance to be involved. And it also means, that by expanding it, there's a greater chance that you're not just going to have one of the top 4 teams making it in. The expanded playoff, though, like when you think about the month of November, it only magnified and intensified what the meaning of the meaning of those regular season games, because every week in November, there were at least 10 games every weekend that impacted who was ultimately going to make it into the 12-team field. Like, look at the Big 12. Every game that Arizona State, Colorado, BYU, and Iowa State played for that entire month had impact on the playoff. And like, you were paying attention to those games. They actually had meaning, rather than if it would have only been a 4-team field, like you wouldn't have cared about any of those games. None of those teams were going to make it to the playoff. Look at the ACC. Pittsburgh still had a factor, was a factor in November. SMU was obviously a factor. Clemson, Miami, all of their games actually meant something. And even like in the Big Ten, where you ultimately ended up getting all these teams in, again, like all those games meant something in the month of November. That loss that Michigan, that Ohio State had to Michigan, like some people say, well, that nullifies the meaning of the regular season. Well, if Michigan doesn't win, the entire seeding of this 12-team format looks completely different. And there's, maybe a pretty good chance that we've got 2 different teams, in the championship game right now. So to me, this whole thing only made the regular season more meaningful because we were so much more interested and engaged in all of these games throughout the entire month of November than they would have just been run-of-the-mill, ordinary college football playoff games that most people didn't care about if we only had a 4-team format.
Completely agree. It heightened the regular season for me, especially at the end. Absolutely heightened it.
Yep, exactly. So college football scheduled the semifinals and the national championship around the NFL's wild card weekend, which of course was this past weekend. So you had obviously the 2 semifinal games for college football. The Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl were last Thursday and Friday before wild card weekend. And now the national championship game, of course, is on the 20th, which is going to be after the divisional round. So like college football completely avoiding the NFL in these playoff weekends. Do you buy or sell keeping college football's format this way going forward, or should they try to just, play on Saturdays and go head-to-head with the NFL playoffs?
That's so tough because here's what I know. I know the NFL, every year they put out like most watched TV programs, and it's always a boatload of NFL games.
Like 90 of the top 10, 100
or whatever
games.
It is. Yes, they're all NFL games. And so I think you're cutting off your nose despite your face if you put college football games up against the NFL.
I do too.
Because I think given the option, people are going to watch the NFL, especially playoff NFL. Okay. Regular season you can do because that's what they did for the home games, right?
Right.
Some of those games don't, but
even then the ratings for those for the college games got smashed because there were NFL games going on at the same time.
Right. So I understand why they put some games up against the NFL that weekend, but now you're talking about playoff NFL football. I don't like the fact that I had to watch Notre Dame on a Thursday night. I don't. I don't think it was great ratings wise overall. I saw some of those numbers. It wasn't fantastic, and it's because it was a Thursday night. but I don't. I think.
But I
it's still
also think
better
it would
off.
have been even worse if you were
Yes.
trying to go head to head with the NFL,
Yes.
you know, with NFL playoffs, because
Completely
all of those games are easily, once
Right.
the ratings come out, gonna get over 20 million viewers. You know, with the exception of maybe the Amazon game, just because it was streamed.
because it's on stream.
You know?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, I just think you're going up against a giant. Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. And the other thing is, you know, again, this is a new format, so we're all kind of getting used to it. So like even the ratings, like for the Thursday, Friday games, maybe within a year or two, once people are used to this format and kind of when the games are, they get a little bit better. But, you know, like, it's like I saw someone tweeting about the fact that, well, you know, I think it was like last year's Michigan-Alabama game got this great rating for the semifinal, but Notre Dame, Penn State was only this number, and it was like maybe 10 million, you know, fewer or something like that. Well, last year's semifinals were played on New Year's Day when everybody's off work and everybody's
Right.
used to watching football. So that's a lot different
Oh yeah,
than when you're doing it like
every few years,
on January 9th and 10th on a Thursday
Yeah,
and Friday
exactly.
night, you know, because
Yeah.
again, people have to get used to it still. So,
Yeah.
and I do like this from the semifinals to the championship, you know, how they're going to be able to, like, I like the fact that there's 10 days and not just a week. Cause like, think about the Super Bowl, like after the
Yeah.
conference championship games, they get 2 weeks between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. Like, so there's extra time. And, you know, these teams have been traveling now for a couple of weeks, and there's the physical toll that it takes, you know, and
Sure.
the whole thing. So I like the fact that they've got 10 days and even, I guess, 11. Is it 11 for Notre Dame? You know, like, I like the
11,
fact that
yeah.
there's extra time and not just, you know, boom, a week, go into the next game for the national championship. I think it
Agreed.
makes sense.
Completely agree with that, especially at this point in the season. 15, 16 games, you need a little extra time, and that's okay, you know? So, you might be able to tweak the schedule here and there depending on the way the calendar falls. You know what I mean? Moving forward. Because, you know, they're always going to play the semifinal games on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So, like, what days of the week are those going to fall on? That might
Right.
affect whether the games
And then
are
how you
Thursday,
have
Friday,
to adjust the next
Monday,
week. Yeah.
Tuesday, you know, whatever the case may be. That's just going to be a calendar thing. But going up against the NFL, you're automatically going to lose. And
Yeah.
there's no point in that. There's no point.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And the NFL is not going to budge. I mean, look at the fact that they
Not a
schedule
chance.
those games, you know, that first weekend of the college football playoffs. Brian wants to know if there's any advantage for Notre Dame already having played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Remember, they played Georgia Tech there back in October.
No, not really. I mean, they'll know their way around. They may not be in the same locker room because they're the home team. So maybe they're going to be someplace else. Yeah, you know, who knows? But I mean, I don't think it's an advantage. I don't. What do you think? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just a stadium is a stadium, you know, for the most part. You know, it's like there's maybe like in basketball, it's a little bit different, I think, because of the fact that, you know, like different shooting backdrops and stuff like that. But I don't think, you know, unless you were playing in AT&T Stadium in Arlington and you've got the sun coming in Jerry's window there in the west, you know. But otherwise, I don't think that there's a lot of difference one way or another. Michael wants to know, would you rather be Brian Kelly or James Franklin?
James Franklin, because James Franklin was playing a month after Brian Kelly was. So
That's exactly right.
yeah.
That's it. You're in the playoffs. And I
Right.
saw someone on our Champions Lounge posted an article that some guy from down in the Bayou wrote.
no.
And I didn't click on it
Did
because
they really?
some people were kind of, you know, giving the gist, but you know, they were basically trying to say, well, you know, most of this team that Marcus Freeman's got are Brian Kelly's guys, you know, all these guys on the defensive line.
Oh my
And it's
God.
like,
No, they're not.
no.
There's not a single senior on the offensive line right now.
No. Did I say defensive line is actually what I meant.
Okay.
To say. But, you know, like Howard Cross, Riley Mills, obviously.
There's
Those
6-year guys. Okay,
Jordan
got
Botello
it.
was injured. Jack Kaiser, obviously, was a Kelly guy. Xavier Watts was a Kelly guy. But otherwise,
But
virtually
he was a
the
Kelly
entire
guy,
team.
but Freeman was the defensive coordinator.
Right.
So was he a Kelly guy or was he a Marcus Freeman defensive coordinator guy?
Who are you talking about?
Watts. Isn't he in his 4th year? Or is he in his 5th year?
I believe it's his 5th.
Okay.
I'd have to double check that. You want me to check it real quick?
See, now I'm messing with you. He's a graduate student. Okay, so maybe it's his
That's what I
year.
thought. That's what I thought.
Senior year of eligibility. Okay, so I'll give you that. But it's a handful. There's a handful of guys on this team.
And
who
even
would be
then,
considered
when Kelly was here,
guys.
obviously, they were trying to play him at wide receiver when he started.
Right, exactly.
So,
Thank you.
I mean, he's turned into a fully formed All-American safety in the last 2 years.
Under Freeman and Golden.
Yeah. And,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I will give somebody who's making that argument, I will give you the handful of players. And I'm serious. Like, I think it's actually a handful. There's not more than about 5 guys that are contributing to this team that were Kelly guys.
But look at the fact that, look at the freshmen who have given them significant playing time this season, and the sophomores who have given them significant playing time.
Look, Archer season. Coming to the defense here. I love this. He says BD tweeted about it. I think he said 16 of the 22 starters never even played for BK.
There you go.
There. I mean, so 4, 6. So 6 guys were actually on the team when Kelly was there. But that doesn't mean that they were really coached by Kelly because they were probably freshmen at the time. So, yeah, come on now.
So my answer, of course, is James Franklin. He won 2 college football playoff games and got to the semifinals. And BK is still sitting at home trying to get it figured out. USMA 87 wants to know if Hannah Hidalgo is going to play this week. She missed a game for the first time in her career yesterday.
Yeah.
When Notre Dame went out to Clemson and won 67-58. It was significantly closer. Thank you very much, Matt. He says, I'm definitely not a homer. See?
Guess that means I am.
My guy, Matt, backing me up on the whole homer conversation. He jumped in here late. So.
I'll wear it. I own it.
He might be in a time warp right now. If I had to get, I'm not basing this on any information I'm given or anything else, but just watching Hidalgo, she was in a walking boot, like for the trip down there. And she had it looked like from where I was sitting, and I don't know if you were listening to any of the broadcast, Vince, but I was sitting up. I was
really?
Up in the Raptors up at Clemson. Yeah, they put you up at Clemson. It is the farthest away broadcast position that I have in the ACC.
No kidding.
Go to Clemson. It is up there, so I'm not anywhere close to the court. But
she had the brace that goes over your shoe.
That's what I was saying. It looked like the Mike Bean Takeo brace that she had on her, and I forgot to ask anybody afterwards. But based on everything, I think that when they sat her, just precautionary, she turned her ankle against Wake Forest last Thursday. They wanted to make sure it wasn't going to turn into anything more serious than that. They're looking big picture. I would think, based on everything that I saw, that she'll be playing against Georgia Tech. Assuming she doesn't go out and practice and
doesn't
turn it again or something like that.
A setback.
Yeah, exactly. Offense definitely looked a little different yesterday without her.
It did. No, it was a little more stagnant. It wasn't quite as up and down. Part of that, I think, especially in the second half, I think they were kind of okay with just, keeping the lead the way, because it was 9 pretty consistently. Every time I was looking, it was 9. It was 9. It was 9. They got it up to 12, and then it was down to 7, but it was 9 a lot in the second half. And I feel like Notre Dame was okay with that. You know what I mean? They weren't trying to push it. They weren't trying to make any extra mistakes. And I think also the officiating seemed to be a little touchy to me in this game as well.
A lot of offensive fouls yesterday. Weird. It was weird. Yeah. Very weird. But Clemson's a really good 3-point shooting team, and Notre Dame did a really good job, even without Hidalgo, who's obviously the defensive, player of the year, in the ACC from a year ago. Like even without her, they defended the perimeter really well. Clemson missed their first 10 threes, and they ended up like 4 of 20 or something like that on threes, so they defended the 3-point line really well. Olivia Miles, played really well. And Leah Tu King, who some people didn't want out of the transfer portal, man, she just keeps killing it. She just keeps killing it.
Who were those people?
Man, I was surprised because when we turned in our preseason ACC ballot, Leah Tu King averaged a freaking double-double last year. And I had her on, like first team. She did not end up on any of the preseason all ACC stuff. And how you're going to leave Leah Tu King off. I realize you're coming to Notre Dame, so people must have, I don't know if it's just like
maybe they didn't think she was going to play enough.
Like you had so many options with Notre Dame because you did have Westbeld and Citron and Hidalgo and Miles. So that's a lot. But like where, and I'm obviously not disregarding anybody else by saying this, but where Notre Dame would be without Leah Tu King, right? And she's just a freaking rebound machine for one thing.
Yeah.
She's averaging over like 11 and a half rebounds a game. She's averaging a double-double. And she did it again yesterday. And like teams keep finding out, you better guard her. You can't just leave her alone out around the elbow, like out around the free throw line or even out to 18 feet, because that's what she started doing again yesterday. It's like, okay, leave me alone from 18, 19 feet. I'm going to keep hitting them, and like, so I don't know if people just kind of figured, well, she's going to go to Notre Dame, so she's not going to, be able to put up those kind of numbers. But all she does is go out and grab at least 10 rebounds every night. And that's really all that's the scoring is a bonus.
Yeah.
As long as she's going out and grabbing those rebounds, and she's still averaging a double-double.
She still scores.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. So she had another great game yesterday. And should be a pretty exciting one. Georgia Tech lost for the first time last week against Virginia Tech. They started off 15-0, and then they lost yesterday to Louisville, who's been pretty so-so this year. So Georgia Tech's lost 2 in a row coming into this one. And, after they had been kind of the surprise team in the ACC, starting off 15-0 this season. So still should be a pretty fun matchup. And, again, like I would lean toward, I think Hannah Hidalgo's probably going to play Thursday night. Can't guarantee anything, but just based on it was definitely not severe, like USMA 87 was saying, he assumed that they, figured they could afford, to sit her versus Clemson, and again, it's like, they're not going to say that out loud. Well, it's Clemson, so we could afford to sit her, but that's kind of exactly what I thought.
I mean, they still won by double digits, I believe. So
almost. It was 9.
Was it almost? Was it ended up being 9? So there you go. So it ended up being 9. So I was right.
Yeah,
crazy.
All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate you being here this evening. We are counting down the days. We are a week away from Notre Dame and Ohio State in the national championship game. Hit the like button if you would, and of course, subscribe on our podcast platform. We're going to be cranking out more and more content all week long as we lead up to one of the biggest Notre Dame football games that we're ever going to see. National championship game in Atlanta coming up next week. Jesse and I are going to get more into the matchup yesterday. The whiteboard is coming tomorrow, so be ready for it, my friends. We'll talk to you then. IB Nation Sports Talk.